Coming back the other way. Ifatu Melifonwu. This is going to be over. Lions are going to win it. Lions are bringing the NFC North title back to Detroit.
All right, what's happening, everybody? Thank you for joining me back here tonight on Off the Cuff. It is March 25th, 2024, and it is Mock Draft Monday. So tonight's a little bit different than normal Off the Cuff episodes, where I'm actually going to dive into a mock draft that's already done. So I've completed it. I've put my notes together. Now, the last few picks after the Lions, I really didn't care too much about them, but I still made the picks. And I'm not going to show you my answers. If you would like, I can do it live, meaning I can pull up the mock draft itself and pick them all live and kind of go through it. But I've already downloaded my image, so I've got it saved. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is that way you just can't see who I picked. I don't want you guys to see who I made right away, right? So kind of keep it fresh, give a little fresh perspective there on what I think is going on in this draft. I got to tell you, as I've said before, this is a very difficult draft, like extremely difficult draft. Last year, I felt that it was a little bit easier because there was more depth at positions. One, certainly that the Lions needed, but two, sorry, I'm trying to find my remote so I can turn the heat down. For all the other teams too. I mean, there was a ton of depth last year, and the positions were deep with a lot of good options where it almost didn't matter if you waited till the third round. There was still some phenomenal options available. And this year, I personally just don't feel it is as good. I think that it's really light. And you want to know what's funny is today, when I was digging into the rules changes about the owners meeting today and the things that they've been voting on, and I was trying to get a video out about it, and I failed to do it. So I've got all my notes. Maybe we'll go through it tonight. Matter of fact, we'll do that. We'll start with that. Anyway, while I was going through that, there was a statement that I found in there, and it said something similar to, how the NFL is investing in the future of football by, giving back to, whether it's high school ranks, college ranks, or whatever. They're sending money downward, to help promote the sport. And I think what you see is, like they said, year over year, there was about a 6% increase in players, or kids playing the game. And with what I took from it was, okay, their main concern here isn't just health and safety of the players. I feel like they are trying to future-proof their game. because without players, you don't have the NFL. If all of a sudden people just don't want to play the game, you don't have anybody signing up to play. You don't have anybody making it to the NFL, and the players that do play, the quality won't be the same. We have no idea how long this game will last. How many generations it'll get through, and I mean it's interesting, right? I mean with any sport, you never know, and football has been one of those sports that has been called out for many, many, many years of being too violent. And, a lot of kids, I mean, even struggled with my own kids in playing the sport. And they played when they were young and continue to play throughout, high school. But, at one point they just, you question on whether it's safe enough, if it's, you don't want to sacrifice their brain at such a young age. And there's so many collisions and the game has come so far with technology and everything else, but you still have all those collisions. And as parents, those are questions you have to ask and answer and figure out. And then you kind of leave it up to your child if they want to play. And you just don't know how long the sport's going to be around because of it. And because of the medical research and everything that they're finding out today, how will that impact the game and the future of the sport? So let me pull up that, I'll pull up the article here that I was writing. I got to pull the chat out too because we started early, or we were supposed to start early, according to my mistake, but we didn't. So that chat's already flowing. One second here. So anyway, what did you guys think about this Cam Sutton news? Earlier I put out a quick video and I heard that 97 won the ticket, just kind of went off the rails with it. I really don't listen to them. And I think I'm going to have to start listening to them when I do my work, because apparently they say a lot of off the wall stuff that I don't know. I guess the guys over there are kind of nuts. I don't know who likes him. I don't know who listens to him. I really never paid attention to him. I just thought he was always, they were always so hateful on the Lions. I kind of gave up years ago, but I really don't even know who's there anymore. Okay. So, all right, we got the chat popped out. Let me welcome everybody into the chat. Looks like about 7:41. We had Tracy back in the house. Lone Wolf, El Torrey, Braylon Dennis, of course, Steve K, Colby Stacy. That's a new name. Welcome in, Colby. Justin Bauman. Justin, that looks like a new name too. So welcome in, Justin. If you've been in before, I haven't seen your comment, but some nights we have hundreds and hundreds of people in here, and it's nuts. We can't see everything. So welcome in if you're new. If you're not, welcome back anyway. James Willis, that's another new name for me. Welcome in. Mike P. So it looks like you guys are talking a little bit about the Cam situation. And, to touch on it real quick, man, it's interesting to me. To the woman's point, and someone made this point to me earlier, that, you have to give credit to what the woman is saying in the situation. And you have to take her at her word right now. But man, there's a whole host of questions right now. Like when I had a conversation with the sheriff department last week, they were concerned that someone made the statement about Cameron Sutton's vehicle being picked up on license plate trackers on the flock cameras, and literally asked me for the information. Like, who said it? Where is that information? And I said, well, I mean, you guys should know, you made the statement, right? And they said no. So I went back and looked and found the statements. And it was, I think it was Officer Martello that was the individual that allegedly gave the statement that his vehicle was found or captured on these flock cameras. But now I'm calling into question everything. Like, okay, how long was he in Michigan? Did Cam just arrive that day? So they really never gave that answer today. Like, did he arrive that day on the 20th, or was he already there? Because they just said he kind of showed up unexpectedly, but what day? What day did he show up? Was he already there for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Because my question is, how long was he here? Because then that'll tell you, was he the one even driving the Jeep, that was quoted as being the vehicle that he was driving, allegedly? That's one question. How long was he here? Is there something else more sinister going on here, like a setup, or was it even Cam? There's so many questions. So many questions. At any rate, if you're wanted, the right thing to do is just to turn yourself in and get your story, added to the mix. Don't make it any worse. But I just find it interesting that if they told him to go secure counsel and to turn himself in and he didn't, that's why they let him go, because he was evading the police. That's not a good look. And they're turning this over to, the union to make a decision on how to handle the contract because of, the morals clause and everything else that's in these contracts that he apparently has broken, or obviously has broken if he is guilty. So yeah, pretty crazy that Cam Sutton was in Allen Park working out, and the release of the warrant comes out same day that he's there. That's nuts to me. And what's real crazy to me is, and I said this earlier too, like, is it the Detroit Lions' responsibility to call the police? I don't know. They didn't let him stay there, so they didn't harbor a fugitive. And I think that was, to this one guy's point on 97.1, like, why didn't you call the police or hold them there? They're not police. It's not their job, I guess, but you can't hold them there either. You can't hold them and then not, allow the police to come in. I don't know. It's a mess, man. It's just a giant mess. James Willis, I see your comment in there. You said that Cam spoke to the Lions before he went on the run. What do you mean by that? So the day that the warrant came out, they had a conversation with Cam. And then at that point, Cam exited the building and then never spoke to the Lions again, or anybody else, apparently. Yep. And to your point, Robert Welch, yeah, they could have easily contacted the police before they confronted him. But they went to him first. And I guess to that point too, and from the limited information that I understand from, the police officer that we had on the other night, is each state, they have their jurisdictions. Each county has their jurisdictions, and you'd have to go through extradition and all of those things to be able to have Cam arrested. Or if, the federal task force were to get involved and pick him up. To be honest with you, the way he explained it to me was there is more important things out there than that situation for them to get the federal agents involved. Like, they're hunting murderers and terrorists, not, situations like that. Not to make light of it, because there's no reason for it to be made light of. But so to all those questions and statements, it's like, I've thought about all that too. Like, couldn't you just call the police and done something about it? How would you feel about it to be involved? There's a lot of little bridges that get crossed that you can never uncross once you go that distance, Yeah. And to your point, Robert, the warrant may not travel that far. All right, so let's get to football here. First thing, let me pull up this work that I was doing earlier. And that's talking about the rules that your Detroit Lions have once again been involved in. They have been successful now 2 seasons in a row with changing some rules. So I think that that's an amazing job by the Detroit Lions. They're effectively and positively affecting the game in a lot more ways than just their play on the field. And the first one, last year when they added the third quarterback rule, where it doesn't go against the roster, I think that I think that that's incredible that they were able to make a change last year and have it stick, or offer a change, offer a rule proposal, and it stuck. It was voted on. And this year on Monday at the NFL League meetings in Orlando, the competition committee voted to change the challenge rules based on a proposal submitted by your Detroit Lions. The Lions suggested that teams should receive a third challenge if at least one of their initial 2 challenges were successful earlier in the game. So before the rule change, a team could only receive a third challenge if both of the previous challenges were successful. And a successful third challenge, however, would not result in a team earning a fourth challenge, which still remains to be true today. But now, if Dan Campbell were to toss the flag and they actually win the challenge, they would be given an extra challenge. So, great rule. Now the question is, Dan, are you going to use them? That's the question. Because he always holds on to his timeouts and he never throws the flag. I mean, very rarely do we ever see the red flag on the ground in a Detroit game. I'd be challenging everything. And I think, last year there was quite a few opportunities missed that the Lions missed by not challenging. And I think that they need to implement a better way to get information to the coaches. I think that there should be, quite honestly, I think that there should be a way for somebody else to challenge the play other than the head coach. Like, the head coach give one individual that has electronic access to hit a buzzer that maybe buzzes a ref, before the Lions can get the flag out. So at least it was lodged, that they're going to challenge the call. Someone's got to have a buzzer or something, some way to identify that they want to challenge the call. And to be honest with you, I think that it should go deeper than that even. I think that there's some things that I don't like personally about the hurry up and hike it, rule. I think that goes against competition. And, when you know that you didn't complete a catch, but yet it was called a catch, and you hurry up to the line and you hike the ball, I think that goes against, what this game should stand for. Which, I mean, if you're trying to set all of these other rules to have fairness be involved in the game, don't you think that would be the biggest one? That if it really wasn't a catch and you're getting away with it because the ref didn't see it and they thought it was a catch, I think that's the biggest one to me. Like, there should be no hurry up and hike it rule, unless you're under the 2-minute warning. I think that there should be a minimum of 15 seconds allowed before the ball can be hiked. Minimum. Because then that gives each coach an opportunity to review their play and what they want to do. Somebody really needs to be reviewing these plays a lot closer. I like that one, Brent. Have an automatic taser on the refs. And then you can call a timeout. Yeah, like shock them, I'd give Brad Allen 2 of them. Attach one to his, his pants somewhere. Robert says it's kind of weird how you can get away with that. It's cheating 101. It is. It is. And look, I'm not saying that it hasn't benefited the Lions, because it has. We've done the same thing. I don't think as often, because Goff is one of the most accurate passers of the ball. And the St. Brown is one of the most accurate catchers of the ball. We don't have a whole lot of plays like that, but we have had a few. And in my opinion, I feel like it would be beneficial for that allowed moment of the game not to happen. Like, it just shouldn't happen. If someone's hurrying up to the ball and it's not the 2-minute or 4-minute, offense, there's a reason why. And that's because the receiver came back and said, "Hey, I dropped the ball." They have a signal. So the receivers, the running backs, whomever, they all have a signal. And if you don't think that the quarterback is looking at these receivers, and the minute that they come up, if they don't, they tap their head or tap their chest or whatever, they do something to signal to the quarterback or the offensive coordinator. Somebody on the sideline is watching that individual to see what happens, and they're looking for the signal. And once they see the signal, man, it's like fire. They hurry up and get everything moving. That signal comes in, it goes straight to the offensive coordinator. Offensive coordinator's in the head of the quarterback, and they're at the line. They're getting it moving. But I think 15 seconds is fair. I mean, that gives you enough time to, review yourself and have enough time to even think. I mean, but 15 seconds, when you think about it, it's not a whole lot of time. But I think that there should be at least 15 seconds between plays. I know it slows down the game just a little bit, but how many times do you see teams really hiking the ball in less than 15 seconds? Unless they're in hurry up. And even then, it's pretty darn close to 15 seconds. So anyway, that was the first one. Second one is this stupid hip drop tackle rule. And I am totally against this. And I had a conversation today with Kyle Long of the Green Light podcast on Twitter. He had pointed out that, he was all about this rule and thinks that, it's a fair rule. And I simply just said, "Hey man, show us some proof as to why, you feel that this rule should be implemented the way that it is. And where's the proof that it's actually causing injury to these players more so than anything else?" And he brought up Delaney Walker's injury, and I think it was 2018. And I said, okay, well, let me go review the tape. So I went and reviewed the tape, and that was not a hip drop tackle, in my opinion. But see, there's the problem. It's subjective, right? It's not objective. It's subjective. If I'm the ref, I'm saying that was not a hip drop tackle. The tackler, I didn't catch his number or name. When he made contact with Walker, he kind of bounced off. And when he bounced off, he kind of like fell, like his feet came off the ground and he fell straight down on the ankle and landed in the right way and tore up Delaney Walker's ankle bad. But that was not a hip drop. He didn't grab him with two arms around the waist and then swing, and then swivel his hips and DDT the guy into the ground. That's not what happened. And that's what I told Kyle Long too. I said, he didn't DDT this guy WWE style off the top rope. He just fell on him, and so anyway, I'm totally against this rule because I think now this offers another way for the Detroit Lions to get screwed. That's really all I care about. But I am against the rule too because it's so subjective. So according to the agreed upon and specific criteria of the now illegal technique, a swivel hip drop tackle takes place when a player does this. The hip drop tackle is simply described as when a tackler grabs a runner with both hands and arms while attempting to make a tackle, and then he unweights himself. And unweights means to take your feet off the ground. So you swing your legs up into the air, so your butt and your legs and your feet are kind of perpendicular. If you know what a DTE is in wrestling, I only know because I remember from a kid. That's kind of what it looks like. Like you're swinging to, drop someone's head into the ground. So they swivel the hips and dropping his or her hips and or lower body. and then lands on or traps the runner's legs at or below the knee. Well, that sounds way too convoluted to me. Doesn't it to you? I mean, come on. Like, how else are you supposed to tackle half of these people? You know, you got some of these big guys that are running away from you. How are you supposed to tackle them? It's not like you can just run up behind them and just, I mean, what are you going to do? Grab them and say, hey, stop running. You're down. No, like, you've got to take these dudes out with some force. Why do you think that Kirby Joseph took out 2 tight ends last year? Because he didn't have a choice. He had to go low because can't do a hip drop apparently now, but even if he could back then, he probably would have got hurt. You can't go high because you have to protect your head and neck and theirs so you don't get a targeting call or, whatever they call it now, personal foul, in a 15-yarder and thrown out of the game at some point. So, I mean, these guys are having to deal with, on defense, all of these rules, in my opinion, do not help the game at all. And it'll make a little bit more sense here in just a minute, too. So such a tackle would now result in a 15-yard penalty and an automatic first down. So it's a large personal foul with a first down. If a player brings his opponent to the ground by performing this is where it gets real messed up. If the player brings his opponent down to the ground by performing the first 2 steps, which are described as the tackler grabs the runner with both arms or hands. All right. Gotcha. And attempt to make a tackle and unweight myself. Okay. My feet are now in the air and we're going down. That's the first 2 steps. But as long as I do not swivel around and land on the legs or feet of my opponent, then the tackle would be legal. I mean, get real, guys. Like, come on. There's this thing called, inertia and momentum. When mass is in motion, things kind of happen, right? Your body just isn't going to stop moving when you go and hit somebody. Your body's going to carry through. So it could look like you're swiveling when your body is just carrying through the tackle, especially if you hit someone from the side. And that's the biggest thing, Steve, to fines, man. And I get to that here in just a second, too. So the league officials felt compelled to take measures and ban the tackle after observing 230 hip drop tackles in 2023. That averaged to roughly 1 occurrence per game. One tackle per game, which was roughly up 65% from the 2022 season. So whatever the numbers are in my head, there was roughly 100 of them in 2022 and 230 of them in 2023. The NFL executive Jeff Miller said that 15 tackles led to injuries. 15 tackles out of 230 led to injuries that caused players to miss at least 1 game last season. So I did the math, of course. 6.5% of those tackles caused an injury that caused a player to miss 1 game or more. Wow. Are you kidding me here? A bit of a reach, don't you think? I mean, tell me, what's the likelihood that any other form of a tackle causes the same exact injury or worse? I would dare say, without having all of the data and the stats in front of me, I mean, I haven't done any research on it, that it's probably about the same. And here's the analogy that I'm going to use. Kirby Joseph. He took out 2 tight ends, 1 for the rest of the season, and I don't know who the first one was. But at any point, he took out 2 players, and it wasn't a hip drop. So, all right, what do we got in the chat here? Pile driver. That's the word that I was thinking of. Pile driver. That's what it kind of looks like. You know, when a wrestler is trying to pile drive somebody, it's exactly what they're trying to prevent. Yeah, it'd be a ballet in no time. They might as well just put flag football on Sundays now. And yes, it does sound like a very gray description the league put together there. It is. It's very gray. And it's for two reasons, in my opinion. One, they want to get in these dudes' pockets. Two, this gives them an opportunity to change the outcome of games. Here's my suggestion. Don't ever put a rule like this in place without two things happening. One, it has to be reviewable. And two, it has to be challengeable. So if they're going to do this, they've got to review it. And they need to show everybody the review. And two, the coach needs to be able to challenge it if it wasn't properly reviewed or if they want a second opinion. So I don't think that it's fair to put rules like this in place without having extra steps. I don't think that a referee should be able to dictate a subjective call on the field. It needs to be clear. We can't have this gray stuff. It doesn't work. It never has. But here's where it gets more interesting. So the speculation is you're going to see way more fines than flags on the field to start with. But eventually, you're going to see more flags that can change the outcome of games. Now, the rule change received unanimous approval from all of the owners, including Sheila Hamp. However, the NFL Players Association did express their disappointment over the decision to outlaw the tackle. Players, are worried about the officials' ability to enforce the rule correctly and consistently in such a fast-paced game. Why is there an NFLPA if they don't really have a voice? Like, what's the point? Like, here, you guys can go talk in a corner by yourselves. We're going to go sit at the big boy table and do whatever the hell we want to do anyway. Yeah. So from what I understand, though, they needed this rule on the books so that they can start to eradicate what they consider to be a very dangerous play out of the game. And that was really the purpose for it, was to just get it on the books so they can start to work on getting it out of the game. Robert Welch, thank you so much for your super chat, $10. Said, I love this topic. This needs to be discussed. Now give me my Dan Miller. All right, let me give you a different Dan Miller because I've been playing kind of the same ones. Oh, what do we got in here? We got to figure out how to line this one up. Nope, that's definitely not it. Hold on here. Where did it go? I want bank 2 on there. Well.
Intercepted, coming back the other way. Ifatu Melifonwu, this is going to be over. Lions are going to win it. Lions are bringing the NFC North title back to Detroit.
I'll have to get these switched. For some reason, it's not switching on my board. For some reason, I don't know why. But I'll get it fixed. In the meantime, I'll play a couple of them here or there. So anyway, I appreciate your super chat there, Robert. Much appreciated, man. Yeah, it does. This is a topic that I think it bothers a lot of fans that the NFL tries to implement these crazy rules that really don't benefit the players. Because if you're trying to make this, and this is my stance on it, really, one, this rule is 100% subjective. There is nothing objective about it. There's no way it could ever be objective. 10 of us could watch the same play and all of us have a different story or a different view. To go further, and then I'll give you my point. The NFL executive vice president, Troy Vincent, met with members of the NFLPA's leadership back in February at the NFL Combine and explained, the league's stance on this, that they were doing this. They were going forward with it. But the players' union leaders weren't offered any input on the modification of the rule. So they told the NFLPA, this is what we're doing, and you don't got a say in it. Sorry. So the NFL Competition Committee Chairman Rick McKay said on Monday that the officials understand the players' concerns when he made this statement. In our case, this was McKay that said this. In our case, we have an obligation from health and safety standpoint to protect players with an unreasonable risk of injury. And this one, that doesn't make any sense. But anyway, there's pure data. It's an unreasonable risk of injury. So that's why we changed the rule. We made a lot of plain rule proposals and changes over the years on health and safety. And sometimes they're looked at as though you're making the game softer. I just don't agree with that at all. I believe we are trying to make the game safer. This is the first year that I remember in a long time where we can say that high school football's participation is up 6% year over year. Remember that. High school football's participation is up 6% year over year. For us, for me, as a life football guy, that is a really important statistic. That's what we're trying to drive is participation. Remember that. Whether it's a girls' flag, girls don't play NFL, bud, boys' flight, or high school football, and we think health and safety plays a big part in that. Now, why did I pull the girls' part out of it? I don't think that there's ever been a girl that's ever tried out for an NFL team. And I don't even know if they would be allowed to play in the NFL, if they happen to be good enough at whatever position that they were, trying out for. I honestly don't know the rules. Never seen it happen. Never seen it challenged. But here's my take on this. I'm all for protecting the athletes and making the game safer, especially when that does trickle down to the lower levels. But this is football. And if what I'm hearing is correct, or what I read is correct, they are more concerned that they don't have enough volunteers playing at a young age to sustain this game long term due to injury risk. Like I said in the beginning, I had questions about my own kids playing. I'm sure many of you have had questions about your own kids playing at some point. That's just something natural parents go through. You don't want to see your kids get hurt. And then when they do get hurt in a game, which my kids have had plenty of injuries, it kind of tugs at your heartstrings a little bit. Am I making the right decision by allowing them to play? Because you hear of all the, monstrosities that get thrown around about, football or this, that, or the other thing. But look, the NFL is more concerned, in my opinion, about having players to fill teams in 20 years' time than they are about anything else. They are more worried about that 6% of year over year participation at the high school level than they are about anything else. Without the players, they don't have a game. And without the game, they don't have billions of dollars. So what is it really about? Is it about making the game safer? Or is it truly about participation at the lower level and what you think you're doing is making the game safer so more people will play? And just because they do it at the professional level doesn't mean, that it trickles down all the way, to the high school ranks. But I would assume that at some point it does. Each school system will look at it and say, hey, this is something that we need to do too. So here was the biggest question I had. Where do the fines go? Where do the fines go for things like this when players get fined on the field? I honestly never knew. I never, ever knew. The fines collected are donated supposedly to the Professional Athletes Foundation. to support the legends in need and the NFL Foundation to further support the health, safety, and wellness of athletes across all levels, including youth football and the communities that support the game. That's great. But at the same time, this rule is going to do nothing but take from these guys' pockets. And I know these guys are, on the surface millionaires, but they really aren't. I mean, rookies, even guys that are making the league minimum, yeah, $800,000 is a ton of money, but they lose about 50% of that to taxes, depending on what state that is. It could be more or less. And they've also got to, move around a little bit, usually throughout their career, and it costs a lot of money to move around. But in one season, yeah, if you played a full season on the practice squad, you could probably net, almost $500,000 playing one season in the NFL, which is about 10 years worth of income based on your average income around the country, your median income, about $54,000. So yeah, they get paid a lot. I don't think that it's, the top guys obviously get paid gobs of money, but imagine if you have one or two of these fines a year and you just got banked $30,000. I've seen fines higher than that. We've seen Monrod get a crazy fine last year. So anyway, this is to your guys' points in here too. Yeah. So football players can't tackle. Got it. Exactly. It's BS. I think that this rule needed some more thought. I don't understand it. I don't know why it was such a big deal when only 6.5% of the players that were tackled in this manner suffered an injury. And my question is, okay, if you tackle them any other way, what's the likelihood that they still get injured? Hell, these guys don't even have to get touched to get injured. Aaron Rodgers rips his Achilles. He didn't get touched. Look at how many other players rip their Achilles or whatever. I mean, it happened in the Super Bowl. Was it Greenlaw or whatever? In the Super Bowl, tore up his Achilles when he was just trying to run onto the field. I mean, those injuries are grave, and it's the turf. So then fix your turf then. You're worried about being tackled. Fix your turf, because that's where the majority of injuries come from, is the turf. Instead of having to invest money into turf, they're just trying to take that money and reduce injuries, supposedly, by tackling. Yeah, exactly. C. Klaus, $500K is not a lot of money when you have to do everything to play. Everything that these guys go through. Now, granted, if you're at the training facility, pretty much everything is covered for you. I mean, all of your food, all of your medical treatment, all of your training staff stuff. But to be at the highest level in this game, a lot of these players will invest a lot of their own money into their own personal training and hiring chefs and buying food, and whatever else they use. I mean, it could be millions of dollars hiring the right people. Tom Brady did it for years, but he was kind of in that Hollywood life anyway. All right, so last one, kickoff rule. This one has not been voted on yet. We're expecting it to be voted on tomorrow, or at least as of about 3:00 today. It wasn't voted on when I was writing all this. So meanwhile, the NFL's owners and coaches do remain in discussion related to the modification of the kickoff rule. The competition committee aims to return the play to relevance is their goal. They want the kickoff to be part of the game again. So while also ensuring lower risk of concussions that have stemmed from the traditional kickoff play before teams opted so frequently, for touchbacks to reduce that apparently. So, I mean, hey, there's a point. You don't even really have to tackle anybody. But in the kickoff play, people are getting injured. Maybe you should take the kickoff out of the game instead of trying to reinvigorate the kickoff where there's a lot more concussions. That, clearly the most important injury in this game would be concussions and head injuries. So you want the kickoff to be part of this game again. I think that this is a giant oxymoron. I mean, come on. You don't want them to tackle, but you want them to go ahead and head on collisions. Got it. Makes perfect sense. Go run into a brick wall, but don't tackle each other. So anyway, this competition committee, like I said, they aim, to return this play to relevance. The modification calls for all players on the kicking team to line up at the receiving team's 40-yard line, 5 yards away from the receiving team's 9-man front line. While the kicker still kicks off at the 35, the goal is to change. The goal of this is to change or eliminate high-speed collisions. So the kickoff team the kickoff team defenders wouldn't be permitted to move until the ball lands on the ground in what is now considered the landing zone, which is the red zone, which is inside, obviously, the team's 20-yard line. 2 players would be lined up as the return men, punt returners or kick returners, and which is obviously one more than the usual one. If the ball lands short of the landing zone, the ball would be moved to the receiving team's 40-yard line. So in essence, what that means is this. They will be lined up at the 40, 5 yards apart from each other. You have a 9-man front on both sides, 5 yards apart from each other. You kick the ball off from the 35. The ball has to land within that red zone, the 20-yard line rectangle down to the goal line. That's it. Once the ball touches the ground or is caught, then the kickoff team can then run to go tackle the ball carrier. If the ball sails out of the end zone or sails into the end zone or anywhere outside of the landing zone, here, let me read that again. The kickoff team defenders wouldn't be permitted to move until the ball lands on the ground in the landing zone, which is inside the receiving team's 20. 2 players are lined up as return men rather than one. If the ball lands short of the landing zone, the ball would be moved to the receiving team's 40-yard line, just as if a kickoff sails out of bounds. Touchbacks would call for the ball to be moved to the receiving team's 30-yard line, according to the latest modification. So if you decide to, kick the ball through the end zone or catch it in the end zone, you get the ball to 30 as opposed to what I think is now the 25, right? So it goes to the 30. The rule also seeks to solve the dramatic decrease in kickoff returns. Just 22% of kickoffs were returned in 2023, while also ensuring that special teams remain an impactful element of the game. The competition committee and NFL coaches met for 4 hours on Sunday to discuss the potential change. The NFL has spent the last 2 years studying the XFL's kickoff alignment, and special teams coaches have spent the offseason working to find a similar alignment that would best benefit the league. There's an appetite for change, and the NFL coaches and owners still want greater clarity and continued discussions before approving such a drastic measure. So, according to league sources, though, the worry at this time is that the NFL does not have support of 3/4 of the NFL owners, which is required to pass any rule underneath the documents of the NFL bylaws. Therefore, they are still lobbying today and will attempt to vote on this tomorrow. So, according to John Harbaugh, he said everybody wants to get returns. So everybody's on the same page with that. But how do you go about doing that? There's a lot of questions because, it's a big change. So look, it's still possible that the league's owners could vote to approve the modification during the remaining meetings in Orlando. And if not, they're going to table it and they'll reconvene in May after the draft. So that's it for the latest news around the league. Of course, the rule changes. Your Lions were now successful 2 seasons in a row. Let's get into some mock draft. First, let me check out the chat here, see what we got. I don't know if they can squib kick. I have no idea. We're not going to know until the rest of this rule is either implemented or not. But yeah, J-Mommy, the tackling rule is going to cause problems. The officials will probably see it all differently. And the kickoff rule borders on moronic. It does. Look, I get what they're trying to do. To the ones, he says, finally, we can see a Devin Hester again. Yeah, I mean, I miss the Mel Grays. And I do miss the blazing, Deion Sanders running kicks back. We haven't seen that component in the game in a long time. And yeah, it would be exciting, but let's let it play out naturally. I mean, why make such a dramatic change again that I think is going to have way more harm than good to the game? I mean, I think that you're going to have a lot of scores, I think, that are coming from kickoffs that are going to ruin the game. As to where that, all right, we scored, we're going to go kick the ball off, it's going to go through the end zone, they're going to start at the 25. I mean, that's the whole reason why they did all that. And now they're messing with it again. So, all right, let me bring in the PFF and get my mock draft up. Okay. All right. Do you guys want to see the mock draft as I pick it? I mean, it's already picked. I'm going to do it live and talk about it. And then you'll kind of see what players are still there. And we're going to kind of go through it a little bit quick because it's all 32 teams. So we've got a lot to get through. Let me, we got to move the chat over here too, so I can actually see it. Better the hunt. Let me make some rules. That's funny. Okay. Okay, so as we see, we're going to do all 32 teams here, but I'm just picking the first round. And this is going to be done based on the research that I did so far in the bombshell. The bombshell that I'm going to release tonight. Which I guarantee, by the way, 100% of you are going to think I'm nuts. Now, I've only done this to one individual that, I mean, we've seen it happen before. We've seen players completely lose everything in the first round because of their attitude or the mistakes they made in the offseason. And that's where I'm starting right now with pick number 1. The Chicago Bears have been linked to Caleb Williams. And I'm not picking Caleb Williams. But let me explain what's going on with the Bears. The Bears are in a pickle, in my opinion. Jalen Johnson came out, among others, the other day saying that Caleb Williams needed to drop the Hollywood Act. That Caleb ended up, being a big problem for whatever team he lands on. That he could end up being a big problem for whatever team he lands on, if he cannot stop the BS Hollywood Act. It was mentioned that even his own teammates at USC had an issue with him. That if Ryan Poles, and this is my opinion, if Ryan Poles is smart, he wouldn't draft Caleb Williams. Based on these reports, now you'd have to dig into it a lot further, but if you've got your own players, I mean, multiple Chicago Bears players coming to the mic, going on podcasts and saying, look, this is silly. The things that you're saying is silly. The things that you're doing is silly. You come into this locker room and you put on this Hollywood act and you're going to get called out. You need to come into this league to prove everything. You are a nobody. We do not care if you go number 1 overall. You are a nobody in this league. You're coming into a team that has some, bona fide killers on it, speaking in NFL terms here, that you're going to want to prove it to us. You're not going to get anything from us. So for that reason, this pick is what I would do. This isn't what Chicago's doing. This is what I would do because I wouldn't take the risk. But also, I think that Jaden Daniels is going to be just as good. And I know that he is outside of the top 10. He was ranked in the 22nd overall player in this draft right now. Jaden Daniels is my pick as the number 1 quarterback in this draft. Last year, I said that it was going to be CJ Stroud, and I said that Hendon Hooker would have been a top 5 had he not been injured. Clearly, CJ Stroud was the best quarterback in this league last year. I said that Bryce Young was not going to work out, and he didn't. Who knows what he does in his sophomore year, but he clearly didn't work out last year. And Will Levis, anybody that doesn't like milk or can't stand the sight of milk probably shouldn't be playing football. So because of the things that were shared by some of the Bears players and how they felt about Caleb Williams, I think that it would be wise that Ryan Poles runs from Caleb Williams. But as a Lions fan, please pick him. Because if he's going to be that toxic in your locker room, that only helps us. If it were me at 1, knowing, that there's this kind of an issue going on here, I would back off of 1 in a heartbeat. Who wants my pick? Patriots, you want number 1? Arizona, you got a lot of draft capital. You want number 1? Because if I drop inside the top 4 or 5, I'm still going to get one of the best quarterbacks, and I'm letting somebody else weed out, the best overall quarterback for me, in my opinion. It's a crapshoot. If you got 3 really good quarterbacks, now you include J.J. McCarthy up in there, it's a crapshoot. Just take any one of them, because depending on how good your team is put together is going to be how good that quarterback of this caliber is going to play. And only one of these quarterbacks is going to be decent in 2024. I guarantee it. And that is Jaden Daniels, number 1, Chicago. So look, Caleb Williams can't come into this league with an attitude problem. He's got to come in humble. It's that simple to me. Washington at number 2. Clearly, they need a quarterback of the future. Drafting Drake May is a no-brainer. But I wouldn't be surprised here if Washington made a mistake with J.J. McCarthy. J.J., in my opinion, is not ready right now. I think that he really needs just 1 year to sit and not be thrown to the wolves. And I say that because it's come out from, some of the people that are close to him that they don't feel that he's as polished in certain areas. But then Jim Harbaugh came out today and said that JJ is the best quarterback in this draft. And if that's what Jim Harbaugh says, obviously as his former coach, he's going to back him up 1,000%. And if he really believes that, then I think that Jim Harbaugh should be trading his quarterback and pick up JJ McCarthy, since he's got the 5th pick in the draft, if he really believes that. So then he could start fresh. He's got a guy that knows everything about him and what he wants. JJ would project greatly with the Chargers. And I'm sure the Chargers could net 2 first-round picks for their quarterback right now. So hold on here. Where's it at? All right. So anyway, I think that Justin Herbert could command a nice little bag for the Chargers. I really do. And that would give the Chargers an opportunity to select the quarterback of their future, J.J. McCarthy, clearly, for Jim Harbaugh. and also get plenty other picks in this draft to get that team set up for the future. But that's probably not going to happen. And I think that Washington is going to wait on J.J. McCarthy and pass up on the opportunity of taking what Jim Harbaugh thinks is the best overall quarterback in this class. And Drake May goes to Washington at number 2. Number 3, Patriots. Patriots, man, this was a tough one because the Patriots need a quarterback badly. But to the point that I just made about Washington, I still think it's a little early to take JJ. The Patriots have been a smart football team for a long time. And I could see them trading back right now to still have a shot at JJ or build the trenches first and target a quarterback in 2025. With the future prospects like Jalen Daniels, Jalen Milroe, Graham Mertz, and Shedeur Sanders, all potential 2025 candidates, it may be worth waiting and building the interior trenches first in New England in what is considered a rebuild season anyways. And for that reason, Joe Alt goes to the Patriots. All right, we're 3 picks in. That's actually not a bad idea, Sports Talk with Rob. If the Chargers traded Justin to the Bears for that number 1 and drafted JJ, like, dude, that's something that could totally get pulled off. All right, so you guys see anything crazy? I mean, the bombshell was obviously Caleb Williams not going number 1 overall. And by the way, like I said, there's no trades in this draft. So mock draft 2.0, no trades. The next draft we do next week, Monday, we'll have trades. Yeah, the Chargers might be able to get JJ where they are right now. I just don't see them doing that with Justin Herbert on the team. I think that would be a wasted opportunity because you could easily get Chicago's 1st and 9th pick in this draft for Justin Herbert, probably, or a 1st this year, or the 9th this year and a 1st next year. All right, moving on to pick 4, Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals have a very unique opportunity to draft any way they want with picks 4 and 27 in the first round. They have options. The Cardinals would be wise, in my opinion, to trade back off of number 4 because they really don't need a quarterback. And they would add, probably another, at least a mid-first round pick and more draft capital for 2025. If the Cardinals value a cornerback over a wide receiver, then the trade back makes even more sense. There is not a top 10 defensive lineman, in my opinion, in this draft. But again, if they value defensive line over all else, anything is possible here at number 4. They can add a guard center at pick 27, which is what they desperately need. But they also need a wide receiver. And when you look at their needs right there, according to PFF, they need a wide receiver, a guard, a center, defensive line, and corner. Well, taking a corner inside the top 10 might happen. Taking a defensive lineman in the top 10 probably won't happen, especially with all the quarterbacks going off and then some offensive linemen going off. and then probably some wide receivers going off. So kind of where I'm at with this. And I don't like this pick either because I think this guy's a head case. I don't think he deserves the number 4 overall pick, but it's Marvin Harrison. I think that, quite honestly, the Cardinals' number 4 pick is up for sale. I think that it's definitely one of a few in the first round that makes a lot of sense, even with this next pick at number 5. Chargers. You got a new coach. You got a new era for the Chargers. Harbaugh values the trenches. We know that. Or at least he did at the U of M. The Chargers are not necessarily hurting on the O-line. They ranked as the 15th best unit in the league in 2024. The wide receiver room is quite thin, though, in 2024. And I do expect the Chargers to add a wide receiver early in this draft. But again, the Chargers would be wise to back down a few spots, adding draft capital, and still having a shot at a game-changing corner or a receiver or a defensive lineman. With an aging Khalil Mack and an expiring expensive contract, I expect the Chargers to add a defensive lineman here, as it is too early to add an edge or a linebacker in this draft, which they desperately need. Wide receiver is also an intriguing option. I believe that the top picks for the Chargers would be defensive line, wide receiver, and corner. And I wouldn't put it past the Chargers even reaching out and grabbing Brock Bowers. We know that Harbaugh loves to have a good tight end on the team. Now, tight end may not have been utilized a whole lot at the U of M, but in this league, a tight end is invaluable, as we've seen with Sam Laporta. But I'm going to stick to my guns here, and I think the first defensive player is off the board at number 5, and that's Byron Murphy, going to the Chargers. Now, if you were to look at my mock draft and compare it to just about anybody else's out there, I am totally either an idiot or a genius, because it's totally different. Don't answer that question. That wasn't a question. I'm sure I don't want to see your answer anyway. So let's see here. Sports Talk with Rob says Marvin Harrison to the Chargers would be nice. Yeah, not for the rest of us, but it would be. That would be a killer play by the Chargers. Donovan Amos says the Chargers will take all the Michigan players. Mark my words. You know what? I'll make a bet on that. I will make a bet, Donovan, that the Chargers don't take one Michigan player unless it is Blake Corum that is somehow left over. I just have a hunch. And I think that would be telling of Jim Harbaugh and what he really says, what he really means by what he says. But we'll see. We'll see what he does. Got to remember, it's his GM that's going to be making the picks. He gets some heavy influence. All right, next up, we got the Giants. And don't forget, tonight we got giveaway night. So every Monday we do a giveaway now from here until the draft. So we'll be doing giveaways. We'll pick your name when we get to the end here. You got to be live. You got to be on in the stream to win. And these are surprise gift bags. So you don't know what you're going to get. Could be from 5 and below. I don't know. Could be from, could be from DetroitLions.com. Who knows? So Giants signed Daniels to a 4-year deal just last season. I don't think the Giants are ready to give up on Daniels, but adding a quarterback to sit and learn for a season and trading Daniels either during the draft and or after the season would make sense. His contract is not very big compared to what, many other quarterbacks are about to make. I could see the Giants adding a quarterback should one fall to them. However, one of the best wide receivers is still on the board. And the Giants have a solid wide receiver room already, but adding Hyatt, they added Ford Wheaton last season, and Wan'Dale Robinson is a solid number 2. The Giants are really lacking a true number 2 corner, in my opinion. They can keep up with Deonte Banks, who was added in 2023. The Giants were active in free agency addressing the O-line, and they have solid tight end in Darren Waller. And they, with a top tier quarterback, wide receiver, and corner and tackles still on the board, the Giants have a ton of options here. So again, trading back should be the move. They should move back off of this pick. Without a doubt, trade this pick and get out of it. It only makes sense if they can find a trade partner with a pick in the top 13, such as the Vikings. And I believe the Vikings are going to move up in this draft to select somebody that we've already been talking about. Top picks I have for the Giants: corner, wide receiver, tackle, defensive line. But my pick to the Giants here at number 6 is none other than the first corner off the board. Where is he? Where is he? There he is. Quinyon Mitchell. Heading to New York, New York. Braylon Dennis says, I want Blake Corum. We could have the best defensive back room in the world. Trade Craig Reynolds for a 4th and 5th. Yeah, I don't know if we'd get a 4th and a 5th. We might get a 7th for Craig Reynolds, maybe. But you could still add Blake Corum to our running back room, and he'd be just fine. I mean, we can have 4 running backs. Probably only going to have 2 on the roster, on game day. And you could designate Blake Corum as protected on the practice squad, so that way he can't get poached. Those are the rules that I think the NFL needs to implement. Like, I don't remember how many guys you can list as protected. I think it's 4. Don't quote me, though. I think it's 4. But I think it should be a third of the roster size. If you're allowed to have 16 guys or 20 guys on the roster, whatever it is, then it should be 5 or 6 or 7 guys that you should be able to protect. That way these players don't go to, other teams and you lose all of that hard-earned money and time and energy spent on developing your team. Let me get you a shout out here, Braylon. Appreciate the $5 super chat, my man.
Oh my Detroit, stand up. You've waited for this. One proud nation, stand up. You've waited for this.
All right. So next up we have the Tennessee Titans. And the Titans, look, they drafted Peter Skoronski last season. I feel that if they get a shot at Joe Alt, even though I've already, taken him off the board to the Patriots, that would be a perfect fit. I mean, perfect match in heaven there to Joe Alt and in the Titans to be matched up with Peter Skoronski. That would be probably one of the best offensive lines in the league very soon if you put those two together. But with a loaded wide receiver room, right? Ridley, Burks, Hopkins, it wouldn't appear to make a ton of sense to add a top tier wide receiver this early. But at the same time, Hopkins is aging, right? In the last year of his contract. The Titans may want to add some insurance to this room should one of their top guys get injured. The Titans just added L'Jarius Sneed and Chidobe Awuzie. I mean, 2 of the best corners in the league. And for that reason, I don't see them taking a corner either. The Titans could use an offensive line upgrade at left tackle and a tight end. My top picks would be tackle, tight end, wide receiver here at pick number 7. But I think because they added offensive line last year, they're going to do the same thing this year. And they're going to take Troy Fontenot, tackle, and number 7. And they're going to build the trenches because they see what's going on in Detroit is working. And I think a lot of teams are starting to follow suit. Give me a 30-second commercial break here, and I don't have anything queued up, but just give me 30 seconds. I'll be right back. All right. Sorry about that. Allergies kicking in, man. I cannot breathe tonight. All right. So next up, we got the Falcons at pick 8. And I mean, just so I'm clear here, look, there is no reason in the world for majority of these teams what type of sandwiches we'll coming back with. Nothing, man. I eat when I'm done. I eat late. So I think that a lot of these teams in the first 10 picks of this draft outside of Chicago, because they said that they weren't going to move out of that pick, should probably consider trading back unless they need a quarterback. But the Falcons added a couple wide receivers. And of course, they added quarterback in Kirk Cousins in free agency. Last season, they upgraded the running back and the tight end position in 2021. With one of the better offensive lines in the league, I feel that the Falcons focus on defense first. And look, I think with an upgrade needed at the cornerback position, both outside and the slot, there could be a big potential for the second corner to come off the board here. Should the Falcons have high scores on Jerzon Newton or Jared Verse for the defensive line? I think both of those options could also be a potential. It's a bit early for a linebacker, but the Falcons do need some help in that room as well. My top picks here would be cornerback, defensive line, and linebacker. But this is where I think that we see second corner coming off the board. Terrion Arnold going to the Atlanta Falcons. And I think it's a great fit. They're looking for another corner, and I think that they're going to find one here in the first round. Next up, we have the Bears at number 9. I really do believe the Bears are going to want to back off of one of these picks somehow to gain more draft capital. I mean, if you could stay in the top 15 of this draft, you're golden. I think that that's it. I think there's 15 top, picks in this draft. Sports Talk with Rob. What do you mean the Vikings have the number 4 pick, not Arizona? PFF right now has Arizona at number 4. Did the Vikings trade already? I don't know if you're watching the screen, but PFF has Arizona listed with the number 4 pick. Oh, I see you corrected yourself there. I see it now. I'm way behind in the chat here. All right. So anyway, we'll move forward here. I got you, Rob. I see it now. I'm behind, man. All right. So Bears at number 9. The Bears find another quarterback still on the board here. Interesting, right? They do all that by taking Caleb Williams, and they still have an opportunity to take another quarterback if they really wanted to. Has anybody ever taken 2 top quarterbacks in the first round? Has that ever happened? Does anybody know? And would, somebody as stupid as the Bears do something like that? I mean, I don't know if it's really stupid, but the likelihood of a top quarterback actually working out is not that great. It's like less than 10%. So why not grab 2? Why not grab 2 quarterbacks, let them duke it out in camp, and then just trade one of them after the 53-man cuts or before? Just trade one. Get rid of one to a team that needs a quarterback. That's what I would do. Maybe. But look, after the Bears already selected one of the better quarterbacks in the league with their first pick, And there's plenty of wide receivers to add to the mix. And a playmaking tight end would certainly help this team. The options are kind of endless for the Bears, having 2 picks inside the top 10. I would expect the Bears to be shopping the number 9 pick and moving back. The Bears have also stacked up the defense and went hard in free agency once again, spending a boatload of money, adding a safety, a center, multiple offensive linemen, a receiver, and Keenan Allen. I feel the Bears wouldn't want to ensure the safety. I feel like they would want to ensure the safety of their new quarterback and give him another weapon on the outside for the future. I mean, as the main objective here, I think that anytime you bring a quarterback into your team, especially a rookie, they need to have a rookie wide receiver matched up with them. You need to obviously have an offensive line that can protect them. So, look, both tackles are pretty solid for the Bears, but right guard is a little sketchy to me. Top picks would be offensive line, tight end, wide receiver. But something tells me Ryan Poles is all about luxury picks. So I think, in this instance, we are going to have the second wide receiver off the board, Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze, or Odunze. It's a big wide receiver, man. Guy's going to be special. And he's playing for the wrong damn team, the Chicago Bears. But that's what I think Ryan Poles is going to do. I think that he's going to double down and find his quarterback of the future, somebody to throw the ball to. Steve Likens, I like where your head was at. You like Neighbors. I'm bigger on Odunze because of the size. I think that the size is, where it's at as a receiver. Neighbors, I mean, great athlete. Dude's solid, but he's only 6 foot. Odunze's like 6'3" or something like that. We'll see. We'll see, Rob. I like where your head's at, though. You got to remember, I gave the Bears Jaden Daniels, and I gave Washington Drake May. Caleb Williams kind of ran his mouth too much, I think. I think he's finding himself in trouble. Look, this one was kind of for fun, but at the same time, like all of the rest of the picks are pretty darn serious. Like, the quarterback situation is only going to affect a few teams. So the rest of it is it's pretty solid. And the research is real solid. I mean, that's what I believe in for these teams. I mean, this is actual research too. All right, number 10 for the Jets. Here we go. The Jets have done a really good job upgrading areas of need in the offseason, adding receiver Mike Williams. They beefed up the O-line with 3 free agents, Smith, Simpson, and Moses. They secured a left defensive tackle position with Kinlaw and Fotu, and a backup quarterback in Tyrod Taylor, who could start. I mean, he's got starting capability. The Jets are fairly strong at all positions with adequate depth heading into the draft, giving them positional versatility, which every team loves to have in the draft. But there's 2 glaring needs, in my opinion, that would be tight end and slot receiver for the Jets, and the strong safety position. Those would be the 3 picks for me if I were the Jets. And so at this point, I've said this time and time again that I am not high on this individual, but something tells me that if Aaron Rodgers is really going to play, Brock Bowers. Hey, nice pick there, Chris Time and Steve Likens. Nice pick. Nice pick. So now we get to the Vikings, who I do expect. I mean, by adding the second, first round pick, what is it, 23? They're trying to stay in front of the Lions as much as they can. I do believe they're going to trade up. I do believe that the Vikings are going to trade up and try to snag a quarterback early in this draft. But if things were to actually work out the way that I have them going right now, they don't need to. They don't need to move at all. The Vikings are searching for the quarterback of the future with plenty needs. Now defensive end, offensive line, and corner. But should J.J. McCarthy be available? I'm almost expecting the Vikings to snag him up quickly. Analyzing the needs of the Vikings, there is a possibility for the Vikings to address the D-line or the defensive back position with the first pick. I think that it would be a mistake if the Vikings don't move up in this draft and stay somehow in the top 15, securing a quarterback and addressing their defensive line and defensive back needs. But I think that this pick is just too attractive to pass up. J.J. McCarthy goes to the Vikings at number 11. Caleb Williams. Yeah, I don't think that the Vikings would be that ignorant to pass up on J.J. McCarthy, and I definitely don't think that they would be that ignorant to take Caleb Williams. I think that they're smarter than that, but I think that one team that is not smarter than that, and I'm just going to blow through this one, the Broncos. I think the Broncos have holes everywhere and certainly need a quarterback of the future. I mean, look what they just did to Russell Wilson. I mean, how do you make that big of a screw up? I mean, completely, royally screw your cap for a couple of years? I mean, huge problem. But should Caleb Williams really slip this far? I mean, is it really an option that some teams would continue to pass on Caleb Williams? I think it's a no-brainer at this point that you have to go ahead and bring in, Caleb Williams to battle it out in camp with a veteran behind him. I do expect the Broncos to attempt to trade up into the top 5, attempting to secure quarterback early. Might not work. I think that the Vikings are probably going to outbid them. And given the other needs on this team, the Broncos could opt to build the trenches with a new center and address the edge position first, should a quarterback not be in the cards for the Broncos in the first round, or should a trade option not be available to the Broncos. But if this draft ends up the way it is right now, Caleb Williams ends up a Bronco. How am I doing so far, guys and ladies? And give me an honest assessment here. No trades, 0 trades. I've gone in and studied every team's roster, where they're weak. I've looked at all the PFF scores for all of these teams and all the players or areas of need where they're weak. And if this draft was shaping up in this way, and if someone really passed on Caleb Williams, and here's what you could really do. You could essentially swap out Jaden Daniels for Caleb Williams right now. But I think that Jaden Daniels would end up a Viking before he would slip past the Vikings. Does that make sense? So that's why I did it this way. I'm really disgusted with Caleb Williams. So this was kind of personal, but at the same time, really, you can just swap these players out. Jaden Daniels goes to the Vikings, even though the Vikings are high on J.J. McCarthy, if the Vikings don't move up. But you put Caleb Williams to the Bears, Jaden Daniels to the Vikings, J.J. McCarthy to the Broncos. But then again, we don't know, man. Washington might be high on J.J. McCarthy too by the time this is all done. And they might want to move back. If they were to move back and stay inside the top 10, stay underneath the Vikings, they could take JJ right there at 10. Oh, he'll definitely cry if he doesn't get picked first. But you know what, man? I've seen it happen. I've seen wilder things happen. I really have. So we'll see. Next up, we have the Raiders. Options, obviously. Let me back up here. Options for the Broncos. Clearly, they still have Michael Penix and Bo Nix right here. There's really no second-round pick for the Broncos. So they don't have an option to gamble. They have to find a quarterback in this draft in the first round. They have to. And Bo Nix and Michael Penix will still be options. If for some reason all the quarterbacks are gone, I don't see 5 quarterbacks going in the top 5 of this draft. But again, crazier things have happened. All right, Raiders. Yeah. I don't remember where Aaron Rodgers was picked exactly, though. I forget. But he definitely slid a while. All right, Raiders. There should not be a quarterback available for the Raiders at 13 unless they attempt to move up. Again, you've got Michael Penix and Bo Nix, but I just don't see them taking those players at 13. I fully expect the Broncos, the Vikings, the Bears, and Washington to secure the top 4 quarterbacks in this draft. The Raiders do have other needs with offensive line, defensive line, DB room, obviously. That should be the top of the list in the first round. The Raiders D-line adding Wilkins to Crosby, Wilson and Kuntz. I don't see the Raiders going strong after the D-line in the first round. I just don't. They could use a left guard upgrade, and another wide receiver to help in the slot is a potential. We know there are never enough good cornerbacks on any roster. And due to the age of the linebackers and the contracts that they have currently, I could see a fit for Peyton Wilson or an edge rusher right here. I do not have an understanding of what the Raiders' identity truly is, though. I really don't. I have no idea what they are trying to do. They are the hardest team to mock any player to. And because of that, I gave them top picks of offensive line, cornerback, linebacker, and wide receiver. But also because they don't have an identity, I gave them Malik Neighbors. Number 13, going to the Raiders. Even though it's not a need, that's why I gave it to them. Options would be Peyton Wilson here, Jared Verse, and Talis Fuaga, because they definitely have needs in all of those positions. So we'll see what the Raiders do, but I don't think it's going to end up being Malik Neighbors at the end of the day. But then again, I can't tell you that I haven't been surprised before. Whatever the smart pick is for them, they'll do the opposite. That's why I chose a receiver. Good point. Would anyone trade St. Brown for Crosby? Ooh. No. Well, okay. Did we get a receiver in the draft early? Because if the answer is yes, how old is Crosby? I forget. He's got a crazy contract too, doesn't he? Man, I don't know. I can't answer that right now. Trying to fry my brain, aren't you? That's a tough one. All right, Saints are up next. Saints will be needing a strong safety at some point soon. But at 14, I just don't see a safety off the board. However, Cooper DeJean is the only one that is projecting to be a transition to safety. Upgrading the left guard position is also a very good option for the Saints. And taking a tackle to switch over to guard and adding some positional versatility is obviously a solid option. With the recent addition of Chase Young on a 1-year deal, adding an edge rusher and or an outside linebacker seems to make the most sense for the Saints. Options, I have for the Saints would be wide receiver, strong safety, edge, left guard. And like I said, they added Chase Young and Willie Gay in free agency, and they added Brian Bresee in the 2023 draft. So I think that they stick with defense. Dallas Turner ends up a Saint. Yeah, my brain gets fried, man. I tell you, it's a lot of research. It just wants to melt down some days. Colts, I don't have a ton of notes on the Colts. This is a non-interesting team to me. This is a hard one. But at the same time, I don't think it's that hard to know what they really need. The Colts selected a free safety with their last pick in 2022, who has not really worked out. So I think that the Colts addressing this need once again in this draft would make sense. And the guy that I just said is projecting as a safety who played corner at a high level in college is Cooper DeJean. I think he becomes a Colt. The Colts actually have a fairly decent team assembled right now. And again, you add this positional versatility right now. You put Cooper in there and let him battle it out at safety, I think he'll be just fine. And Chris Tyne, yeah, they could go cornerback, but see, that's why I like Cooper, because Cooper is a corner that can also play safety. So it's almost like, you pick the guy and you just say, do both, play both for us. And we'll figure out which one you're best at. And that's where we'll stick you. If you're better as a safety, we'll keep you as a safety. If you're better as a corner, we can keep you as a corner. You know what I mean? So I think that there's options with Cooper. You think I gave the Bears too much credit? I don't know, man. I don't know. They probably won't pass on Caleb, to be honest with you. I would in a heartbeat, but that's just me. Seahawks, number 16. The Seahawks have one of the best wide receiver rooms in the league right now. And that's why I feel like they pass on any available wide receiver at 16. They brought in a couple linebackers and a safety in free agency, adding on to the DB room they assembled last year would mean that they won't go that direction either, is my feeling initially. But I also feel that they will have to focus on upgrading the interior of their offensive line, which is kind of in shambles right now because of all the impending free agency departures. They're kind of set at tackle. Seattle's interior line is more or less inadequate. And what better way to start rebuilding than with the most important link in the chain? I talk about this all the time. If you break the center link of an offense, your defense will win. But you cannot break the center link of an offense when you have Jackson Powers Johnson as your center. Now, I've given the Seahawks other options as far as, tackle, edge, and linebacker. But something tells me that, there's a new identity in Seattle, and they're going to start in the trenches because it works. It just works. Chris Tyne, yeah, I don't know about that, man. I don't have the resume to be a GM in the NFL. Maybe someday when I'm old, but you know what? They don't want old people in the NFL. If I would have thought that there was ever a shot, I guess I never thought about it. I guess that's why I'm doing it now, because, my situation in life kind of pointed me in a direction where I didn't know what was going to happen the next day. And so that's why I'm doing this now, because I wanted to live out the dream, my dream, at least try and see where it goes. So we'll see where it goes. I've got a long way to go before I can make anything like that happen. All right, Jacksonville, number 17. Here we go. Jacksonville tackled their offensive line holes in free agency. They replaced Ridley with Gabe Davis, and they also kept their pass rusher, Josh Allen, and added Amik Armstead to the defensive line. I mean, all great signings. They also signed free agent Ronald Darby as their starting right cornerback. And I mean, look, he's a quality dude. It's only a 1-year move at this point. They also added, was it Darnell Savage, I believe, at strong safety in free agency. So, I mean, all great moves for the Jags. And they still have a big weakness, though, at corner. And I think that they were, pretty terrible last season versus the past. I mean, so an upgrade at that position would obviously go a long way into fixing this problem. So this is a tough one for me because there's so many solid players that can help this team. I mean, like I said, they've helped their defensive line out big time. They added a starting right corner. So that means if you do bring a corner in, he doesn't have to be the guy. He just needs to be the other guy. And for that reason, I think Nate Wiggins ends up a Jag. I think it's a good fit. Now they have, other needs on this team as well. But when, again, this is no trades. We're not doing anything funny. We're just picking them as they lay and wherever they fit. And I tried to, do best player available here and then also look at the needs of the team. But not everybody's going to go in the order in which they're projected in my book. It just doesn't happen. Man, Josh Jackson, when did you hear that? That Patrick Surtain is someone's entertaining offers for Patrick Surtain? I haven't heard anything about that. I haven't seen anything about that out there. I mean, there was some things that were flying around last, trade deadline. But the Broncos made it a point that they weren't doing anything. Interesting. When did the 49ers make an offer? I guess who reported that? I haven't heard one thing about Surtain. Dude's a baller, man. He's an amazing corner. Really is. All right, so Bengals on the clock. Bengals have some urgency, honestly, in this draft. Pretty rough season last year. But defensive line, they lost DJ Reader. That was a big signing for the Detroit Lions. And their right defensive end, Sam Hubbard, he's an average edge rusher. Joe Burrow has really been under some immense pressure the last couple of seasons. And the addition of Sheldon Rankins, in my opinion, it does put a big Band-Aid on the defensive line problem. I think that Sheldon Rankins is an excellent defensive lineman. But I think, by leaving the offensive line as the biggest need here is probably the smart play for the Bengals. Their left tackle, Orlando Brown, is average at best. Their right tackle, Trent Brown, is on a 1-year rental deal. The interior guard play is a bit suspect, especially the left guard, Volson. I think that there's some phenomenal options here. The Bengals can go in any direction. They could get young with Jerzon Newton, or I think the pick here is Olamuwai Fashanu, and I probably just totally butchered his first name. Penn State can be a swing tackle, but I think he's going to slide in nicely and probably start, somewhere at left guard, then work his way into the tackle position after his rookie season. All right, up next, we got the Rams. Rams just lost their number one defensive tackle, Aaron Donald, to retirement. Not to say he doesn't come back for a Super Bowl run should the Rams have a good season, because he might. But the Rams got some big shoes to fill there. Rams brought Darius Williams back at the corner position. They brought in Cameron Curl in for strong safety. So their DB room is kind of secure right now. last year's rookie stud that I thought would have progressed great as a Detroit Lion. Kobe Turner had an amazing rookie season. But with Donald gone and kind of a paltry edge rusher, this Desjuan Johnson, I think an upgrade is needed there on the edge. I think the Cooper Kupp isn't getting any younger. And maybe that doesn't possess the elite skills he once had either, you know? Rams could use an upgrade at receiver and at the left tackle position. It's not an elite position right now on this team. And as one would hope, you know, that they're going to want to continue to protect Matt Stafford, it should probably be high on their list to make sure that Stafford doesn't get banged around. But I'm going to go back to what I said in the beginning. Aaron Donald's gone. Edge rusher, not the best edge rusher, you know, in the league. And then there's a guy sitting there that really has phenomenal positional versatility. And that's going to be Jared Verse, edge rusher, Florida State, headed to the Rams. See, I went, J-Rod, I went with Verse there because of the edge rusher issue. And I think Kobe Turner slides over. I think that he's going to be given a bigger role this year. They still need to bring in a bigger nose tackle kind of a guy, but the reason why I take Verse now is they might have a shot at grabbing the Texas kid. Probably, I don't know. I mean, they're picking in the middle of the round, so even in the middle of the third, potentially, or right here. I mean, early in the third, Trevonde Sweat, Brandon Dorloose. I think that they're going to have a pretty good opportunity to land somebody again at their second pick. So that's why I went there. Sweat's been moving up, man. He was, in the 90s. He's now in the 70s. He keeps moving up. If he can shed some pounds, he's going to move way up. Yeah, I like Jared Verse. I wish the Lions could have an opportunity at getting him, but we'll see where my my picks end up, as we get closer to the draft. Dolphins are up next. Are they? No, I'm sorry. Pittsburgh's up next. Look, the Steelers are struggling to find solid offensive line play. They have been for a while. Recently, they dumped Mason Cole at center, and their left tackle, Dan Moore, is far from starting quality to protect Russell Wilson. And if this team even wants a chance with Russell Wilson to have a good season, then last year's draft pick, Broderick Jones, who had an average season at best at the right tackle position, is going to have to step up. But I just feel like offensive line is a big hole for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's why they're going to take the best tackle on the board right now, who is Talis Fuaga. All right, next up we have the Dolphins. Pick 21. Dolphins need to protect Tua, flat out. And with a deep offensive line draft in the first two rounds, I expect the Dolphins to do just that. The sticking point is the Dolphins just lost a power player in the middle of their defense, Christian Wilkins, leaving in free agency. The wide receiver and running back rooms are as solid as they're going to get for another season. Yet I feel like along with their defensive backs, in adding Jordan Poyer and Kendall Fuller in free agency, that the DB room is just fine. Now, they did get Benito Jones back. He went back home to help this D-line, but there's some uncertainty with leaving that the only move. I don't think the Benito Jones is the answer that the Dolphins are going to be looking for. Not when you're trying to replace a Christian Wilkins. The Dolphins would be wise to move back here, potentially landing a future second-round pick and a third-rounder in 2024, assuming that they stay in the top 25, 26, dare I say top 29 with the Detroit Lions. Now, as badly as I'm projecting that they need some defensive line help, I think that the Dolphins are going to protect their quarterback's interest more here in taking a guy in Graham Barton, who has extreme positional versatility. The guy has played across all 5 positions on the offensive line, which, allows coaching staff flexibility, particularly with all of the interior positions. I think that there's some great options here with, Jerson Newton being added to this team, and even tackle Amarius Mims. But for right now, it is Graham Barton making sure that Tua doesn't get beat up too badly. Next up, we've got the Eagles at pick 22. The Eagles brought back a familiar face in C.J. Gardner-Johnson to help the back end of their defense. That was pretty miserable last year, probably one of the worst defensive back rooms in the league. But they still have a stacked DB room as it is. They just had a really bad season. And as I'm expecting the Eagles to have a bounce back season with addressing the front of the defense as a primary concern, and Hassan Reddick is still seeking a potential trade out of Philly, the Eagles would be wise to shore up a position for the immediate future. And for that reason, I think the guy that I'm not high on goes right here at pick 22. Laiatu Latu to the Eagles. And they continue the trend of taking defensive players in the first round and ensuring that when Hassan Reddick is traded, probably during this draft, that they have somebody to help fill in a void. All right, what do we got going on in the chat here? You guys are talking about Surtain still. What's the latest news and rumors you guys have? Talking about if Surtain is available, we would be crazy not to go after him. The only problem is if you think that Snead and Jalen Johnson and all them were expensive, I think Surtain is going to want a pretty hefty contract. J-Rod heard an odd story of Herbert to Minnesota. That would be interesting. So Minnesota would give up what? And who's discussing what it would cost the Broncos to move up ahead of the Vikings, and giving up Surtain and picks would do it. There you go. Interesting. All right, we're back to the Vikings here, pick 23. I'm not expecting the Vikings to be picking here at all at 23. I'm expecting that they're going to be moving up the board to probably take a quarterback in the top 6 of the draft. The Vikings, added top-end linebackers in free agency with Greenard, Van Ginkel, and Cashman, addressing a major need after the loss of Danielle Hunter, which still leaves the Vikings with a big hole and a major need with Jonathan Bullard, who's less than ideal at the defensive end position. Should the Vikings not move up for some reason, and they do pick at 23, I kind of expect a big play here for an edge or an offensive line player. I think that you still have, tackles Latham. You still have Guyton, Amarius Mims. You got Brian Thomas, but You don't have a quarterback yet, potentially, if you haven't traded up. I don't think that they would take a wide receiver before they took a quarterback. And they really don't need a wide receiver right now. So for that reason, I feel like they probably take the best, most natural edge rusher, defensive end, Chris Braswell. And they try to make up for what they lost with Danielle Hunter. All right, next up, we got the old Cowgirls. How about them Cowboys? Look, man, they lost Tyron Smith and center Tyler Biadasz in free agency, which means that Dallas is in need of an offensive line, especially to help Dak Prescott stay upright if he doesn't end up in prison by the start of the season, apparently. However, the offensive side of the ball could also use a better number 2 receiver, someone that could help take the pressure off of CeeDee Lamb. And we know that their owner, Jerry Jones, loves luxury picks. He loves shiny new toys. And I think that he would probably be more apt to taking a wide receiver before addressing a need. He loves those luxury picks, just like he said the other day how much he loves glory hole. So from what we understand, with Tyler Smith being able to move to the left tackle position, the Cowboys may opt for some O-line help here, and that's where I'm thinking that they finally take Amarius Mims, tackle Georgia, to help fill out that offensive line. I'm sorry, what's that say? Ahmed 3000. What are we talking about here? Which mugshot are we talking about to Cam Sutton? I had to bring up the glory hole. Did you guys see the thing I posted on Facebook? That thing got like 20 some odd thousand views. It was hilarious. What are we talking about with Cam Sutton here? Some mugshot? Yeah, Dallas has legal issues with Dak. They do. Dak's apparently allegedly been accused of sexual assault or something like that. Allegedly, of course. My instant thought process was, who did Jerry pay now? Because he doesn't want to pay $60 million to his quarterback. Allegedly. All right, Green Bay Pack is up next. Packers missed out on clearly top dog safety in 2023 when the Lions fleeced the Pack for Brian Branch. They also, they being the Packers, moved on from David Bakhtiari in free agency and traded away a corner in Rasul Douglas. But they did add a guy that I was high on, Xavier McKinney, in free agency, which would point to the biggest needs for the Packers being a corner opposite of Jair Alexander and offensive line, as the Pack is currently starting a 7th round pick left tackle in 2024. So with a slimming top tier tackle pool this late in the first round, we've seen quite a bit so far off the board. The best overall right tackle, in my opinion, could be Jordan Morgan. Could be. Now, he's not projected to be taken till sometime, I think it's in the 40s right now. Where's Jordan Morgan at? He is an interesting prospect, though. Very, very interesting prospect. I don't know where he is. Where did he go? Well, anyway, he's in there somewhere. The guy that I'm projecting to the Packers is definitely going to help out Jordan Love. He needs some help on the offensive line. Left tackle, J.C. Latham, Alabama, goes to the Packers. I think that the Packers are going to be smart this year and address the offensive line because these Detroit Lions are coming. Like, we are coming. Now that we've added DJ Reader, freeing up our linebackers. Man, this draft is starting to work out. If there are no trades, and I mean, you look back at all of these picks, and you look at how it's all lining up. The Lions are going to end up with somebody good. We're getting there. A few more picks. All right, number 26, Tampa Bay. Tampa lost, Shaquille Barrett in free agency, releasing, they also released a veteran edge rusher. No, I'm sorry. Tampa did lose their veteran edge rusher, Shaquille Barrett, leaving a pretty noticeable gap in coverage there. No pun intended, but the Bucs are also facing offensive line issues. That could be a bigger problem in my opinion. So given the fact that they finished the 23rd best defensive line and the 31st best, basically last offensive line, one would suspect that the defensive line, let me say that again. They finished the 23rd best defensive line and 31st best offensive line. So one would suspect that the defensive line would be the move here. Or potentially one would have to think that the best player available be a defensive tackle. The Bucs might opt to take Jerzon Newton because he's still sitting there. I think Jerzon Newton heads to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I don't know why I read all that backwards, but at any rate, I think that Tampa Bay could use a defensive lineman over an offensive lineman at this point. And quite honestly, I think that they could use an edge rusher. I would not be surprised if Chop Robinson heads to Tampa Bay at this pick. I think that there is a big opportunity right here for that to happen. Looks like Matthew Agrostrand has the same idea. Chop hasn't left the board yet. Still have a pretty good board. So we are at 27. We are back to Arizona. I do not expect Arizona to have this pick. I think that someone is going to try to trade up to take it. I don't think that it would be the Lions. I think that if the Lions move up in this draft, I think it's possible, very, very possible, that they want to get north of the Bengals. Or they want to get all the way up, working something out with the Patriots, because the Patriots don't have a second round pick. I just don't know if the Patriots are really going to value, a quarterback or a wide receiver or a tackle as high as they would adding picks. So anyway, Arizona Cardinals, pick 27. Round 1, pick 4. They also have round 1, pick 27, round 2, pick 35, round 3, pick 66, round 3, pick 71, round 3, pick 90. I mean, they are loaded. It's almost illegal what they have, where it should be. They have 7 picks inside the top 104 picks. 7. That's completely asinine. But that's what a smart GM does. They stack picks. That's why don't ever be, don't be surprised when Brad Holmes trades some of your favorite players, because he wants picks and he wants to build through the draft. Look, nobody expects the Cardinals to stay put at any of their picks. There's going to be a ton of action with the Cardinals. And that's why I'm saying that the Cardinals are going to be this year's Houston Texans of 2023. They simply have too much ammo in this draft. The draft needs don't change. And even though the Cardinals have some major issues and needs to fix in 2024, I think that they're going to continue to do what they've been doing, and that is to stack more draft capital and add some really good players this season. Both offensive line and defensive line finished near the bottom of the league in 2023 and ranked 30th in sacks. With what they have? 5 free agency. Hold on a second here. What does that say? I don't know what I wrote. But anyway, I feel like, they could be looking to add somebody on the offensive line and the defensive line, but they're going to have plenty of picks to be able to add a top tier linebacker, or somebody else to help this team. Both of these lines are a clear emphasis of change for the Cardinals in 2024. Now, they did add Mack Wilson this year in free agency, who is a darn good linebacker, probably one of the better ones in the league. So I don't think that they would take a linebacker for that reason. However, there is another position of need. And if this offense wants to come alive, I think that the Cardinals have plenty of picks to be able to add all of the players that they need to add in this draft. But there's only so many times you're going to have a player sitting there by the name of Brian Thomas Jr. that can really help your team out. And when is the last time that Arizona has really had a solid wide receiver? It's been a little bit. Jason, to answer your question, the last we knew, Cam was actually in Allen Park on the 20th, and no word from him since. So Brian Thomas Jr. heads to the Arizona Cardinals, but again, in the first round, if they do stay put, they could grab Marvin Harrison Jr. at pick 4 and Brian Thomas at 27. They're solid in that wide receiver room forever, or at least the next 4 to 5 seasons. But the other option here would be to be adding an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. They could have added Tyler Guyton. They could have added Zach Frazier. There's a lot of options right there for Arizona. They could have added a Kool-Aid McKinstry or a TJ Tampa. But I have them double dipping if they don't move, if they don't trade out of these picks on wide receivers, setting their wide receiver room up for pure success in 2024. All right, number 28, the Bills. That was the second bombshell, by the way. Cardinals go deep, literally, with 2 of the best wide receivers in the draft. Man, that would be an insane move. All right, the Bills and Stephon Diggs have had their moments. And no, Stephon Diggs has not been linked to the Lions. When anyone has a problem or, something's going on somewhere, every player is linked to the Lions. It's just not true. But the Bills and Stephon Diggs, like I've said, they've had their moments, and it appears that this relationship is not on the mend. It's not going to end well. It's on the fritz, to say it another way. But losing significant talent this offseason means multiple positions for the Bills need some help, and they could be targeted here at pick 28, including wide receiver, center, interior defensive line. They signed free agent Curtis Samuel to help, with the track team aspect, if you will. I stole that from somebody. I like that little phrase, track team aspect of the passing attack. However, losing a player like Leonard Floyd is not easy to replace unless you have the option of adding a stud in this draft. But this is where it gets tough because, again, they could use a Peyton Wilson right now. They could add a linebacker who was one of the best in the combine at his position. They could use him. And according to PFF, they need a linebacker. They need a tackle. They need defensive line. They need a DB. And there's two amazing DBs staring us in the face right here with Kool-Aid McKinstry and TJ Tampa. And if Mike Sainristil is your cup of tea, you got Mike Sainristil. I just think he's too small. You also have Braden Fisk staring at you at the face. But I think that the Buffalo Bills are looking to mend a fence without mending a fence. And that's why they take Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver, and they don't have to worry about Stephon Diggs very much longer. Adonai Mitchell just went off the board. Quinnen Mitchell, he went number 6 to the Giants. Terrion Arnold went number 8 to the Falcons. And now, on the clock, Detroit Lions. So bear with me here. Lions, they have a lot of needs for offensive line depth and future starters at both guard, center, and left tackle. There seems to be a logjam at the edge position where the Lions have added Betts, Davenport, Agudi. They've retained Kaminsky, Pascal, Houston, and Hutchinson. 8 players in a position that usually only carries 4 to 6. The defensive tackle position currently has McNeil, Onwuzurike, Chris Smith, and Broderick Martin from last season, and added DJ Reader in 2024, making it 5 defensive tackles with players that are multiple, like Josh Pascal and Kaminsky, who play a hybrid role of inside-outside defensive tackle, defensive end. In total, there's 13 players covering the defensive line currently on the roster. The Lions only carried 12 into last season's 53-man, 7 on edge, 5 in the interior of the defensive line. Now, I fully expect that the Lions are going to want to roll into camp with a few extra bodies. But I see the Lions having options here with 1 defensive tackle and 3 more edge for camp that will decide on leaving room for 1 of each to be taken in this draft, with the priority being edge. The Lions are currently 1 short at linebacker to fit last year's 53-man roster. I expect the Lions to find one in the draft, paving the way for a player like Peyton Wilson to make his way onto this team in the first round. Then again, the Lions also carried 7 corners and 4 safety on the 53-man roster, with Brian Branch being named as a corner last year on the roster. Currently, the Lions have room for 1 more corner and 1 more safety, and I expect Brad to go after 1 of each in this draft. But the Lions also carried 6 wide receivers last year. They had 5 on the roster and 1 suspended. Jameson Williams. With top choices still available at all positions, given the way this draft has gone without any trades, I expect the Lions to do what many probably don't want them to do. And that is reach for a player that they want for 5 seasons. A player that they want to be able to milk 1 extra year out of. Maybe somebody that, dare I say, needs to get a little bit of extra work in his first season. Maybe a little bit of a project still. Probably not somebody that is a bona fide starter, but will be. Given the fact that the Lions have not taken a corner in the first round ever in Brad Holmes' reign as GM, and the biggest hole currently on the roster being a dominant edge rusher, the Detroit Lions select kicker Will Richard. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. They're not taking a kicker. It's a good story, though, wasn't it? Nope, they're taking Kool-Aid McKinstry. They've got to fill that number 1 overall spot. They have to round out this cornerback room. They have to add some depth here. They don't have to worry about this corner to come in and to be a starter. He can work his way up to being a starter. But right now, you have the benefit of Carlton Davis on this roster. The goal is you hope that he stays healthy all season. You also have Amik Robertson, which he does have experience on the outside. He's a slot corner, but he can work the outside as well, which means that this guy that comes in could play, the left-sided corner position. He could be the number 2 on this team, so he doesn't have to get burned all day long by some of the top-tiered, wide receivers, not only in our division, but in the league that we're going to play this year. But this is just mock draft number 2, no trades. No trades. And I believe the best man available right now is Kool-Aid McKinstry. Now, something else that you have to remember, the Lions have only drafted the players that they have brought in their top 30 visits, combine visits, local visits. Those are the players they bring in more than 90% of the time. If I really wanted to make, a splash pick here, the guy that has not gone off the board yet, the guy that I think that makes the most sense is sitting right there. Chop or Darius Robinson, I think makes the most sense for what the Lions really need to do this year is to get a better pass rush. But the other day, I was going through all of the positional needs and values and where teams spent the most money. And just because you spent the most money on a certain area doesn't mean you finished in the top of the league from that positional group. So if you spent the most on edge, doesn't mean you had the most sacks. If you spent the most on offense, doesn't mean you had the best offense. But there was one thing that kept sticking out to me. The teams that spent the most money on their cornerbacks typically had better defensive line play. I didn't see it the other way around in the scenarios that I was looking at. And I think with the way that the Lions just attacked the defensive line, and we've already added a major piece with DJ Reader, as long as he stays healthy. And I'm hoping that, they're getting some early work in right now and seeing how, DJ Reader is able to perform. I don't know how soon that they're allowed to come into the building and, I know they can't have organized practices or anything, but I assume that he's allowed to come in and work it out a little bit. Especially coming off of an injury, I think that he gets some level of protection there where he's allowed to be with the training staff. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is I think that corner makes the most sense because, again, I'm expecting the Lions to do something in this draft to move up to be able to add a secondary piece. And if that means that they take Chop or Darius or Adisa Isaac or, if gosh forbid Dallas Turner or Chris Braswell were to fall, then I think that they add an edge first and they still move up to grab their corner. The thing is you're not going to have another option to grab a top tier corner, in my opinion, after this first round or the first, 38 picks of this draft. I think that all of the top tier corners are gone. I still believe there's going to be some really good corners available in this draft. And there's going to be some available in, in the second round, the third round. Here, just to show you guys that I picked all these the same here. Let me show you my screen. So, as you can see, I picked them all the same. Kool-Aid, McKinstry to the Lions. Now, to round out the draft, I had Baltimore taking Tyler Nubin. I think that they really need a safety. And Chop Robinson goes to San Francisco at 31. And Ladd McConkey to Kansas City. They really need a wide receiver. So just to show you that I do it all on the up and up, I had it all done beforehand. I put all the work in beforehand. And this is how I see things kind of working out with 0 trades. Crazy move. Caleb Williams gets passed over in the first round. He ends up at number 12 to the Broncos. Attitude is everything. Even crazier move. Look at the Arizona Cardinals, man. They jump out and take the 2 of the best wide receivers in this draft and start building an offense that is going to be super potent. I think those are really smart moves, but I'm here. I'm not picking for these teams. And who knows if it would even work out in the end. I've never had my picks put to the test. And who knows if I would even be able to make these picks when it came time to make them. Because there's a little bit different level of stress with this when you actually have to do it live, you know? So, you know, that's the other thing that I like about Kool-Aid. And so some of the research that I put into this is Kool-Aid actually was on the team when JMO was there. So they got to go up against each other. Kool-Aid has plenty of work in against top tier wide receivers. He also has the continuity and the chemistry of playing with Brian Branch. To your point, Matthew Agerstrand. Or Agerstrand. And for all those reasons, you start building a team that's has chemistry from day one. I think it's going to help you get there quicker. James, to your point, yeah, I think in our top 30 visits, I had it pulled up a little while ago. I think it hasn't even really been updated in weeks. I haven't seen anything updated. I take that back. Nehemiah Pritchett has been added as a top 30 visit. Excuse me there. And yeah, Kingsley Suamatala, BYU. He is the only one that was met at the combine so far. So these top 30 visits, they're going to be, coming in fast and furious here pretty soon. And we'll get more information. Anyway, we'll get more information after, all these pro days are done. They'll start bringing in all the players or more of the players, and there'll be more information coming out after that. Lions draft the players that they meet with, the players that they know, right? So Brad says he has to know these guys. Well, you don't really know them until you have them on your team for a couple of seasons, and you get to know them in the beginning. Matthew, yeah, I did watch Jake McCaffrey. He's an interesting prospect. I think that, some of these guys do make, excuse me. Some of these guys do make some big leaps in this draft. But at the same time, if you can get them late in a late round and you're not really wasting much but a late round pick, they're always worth a flyer. There's always been something to having a blood relative in the league already. The DNA, is there. The bloodline is there, and learning from your brother from in the league already. There's a lot to be learned there. So there's always something to it. Cade Beresford. I don't know who that is. Or Beresford. And who's BSU? What college is that? BSU. Is that Penn State? BSU? Cade Beresford. Let me look him up. Oh, Boise State. Gotcha. Out in your neck of the woods. No. Where's Boise State? All right, I'll look them up. All right, well, what'd you guys think of Mock 2.0, no trades? Did you guys like how it went down? I know it took us a little bit to get started, but I kind of like having it all put together so that we don't have any surprises. I've done all the research now. I don't think it's going to change. I think what changes now is the trades. And, teams are going to want to move up. And teams are going to want to move back. I mean, by nature of the beast here, I mean, they're going to want to add picks, right? They're going to want to have better opportunities. J-Mommy was Kool-Aid McKinstry. Kool-Aid McKinstry here. I'll put it back up one more time. This was the final. I already had this one done, but I saved it. And then I just went over the last 3 picks after the Lions, but that's the final. So obviously, what I was saying there with Kool-Aid is the Lions need to add a top tier corner to this roster. And I'm expecting that they're going to do something to move up into the top 45 of this draft, preferably the top 40, and get their second player. I haven't done fantasy in a while. I used to. This year, I'm going to actually launch a fantasy football program for all of the members. When I launch memberships, we're going to do a member-driven fantasy football league where you buy into it, obviously, through your membership, and your membership will help pay the prizes. And like we'll do championship belt or something, something cool for the end prize of the year. Yeah, I don't know about Zinter, man. He's got real short arms. You just got to be careful. You just got to be careful with always trying to pick your guys from your Saturday team to your Sunday team, because oftentimes they don't translate. You've got to look at some of the arm lengths and some of their measurables, their athleticism scores. I can't remember if it was Zinter that had short arms or if it was Nugent. It was one of them, but the other guy, Harrell, though, I think that Harrell's got an opportunity with his measurables were pretty good. And the guy's got a nasty streak about him. But JJ McCarthy, man, he got some love today from me. I think that JJ's going to move up. As much as I wanted to say that I didn't think that there was going to be a shot in hell that this guy was going to move up in the draft, his pro day was really good. And watching him throw and watching him move around really helped him a ton. And I don't care what Jim Harbaugh says, because he's going to say that. Like, he's always going to say nice things about his players. And, I don't think that he really drafts any one of his players. I really don't think he does. If he does, he does, but I highly doubt it. And at the end of the day, look, Blake Corum, he's a true gritty guy. Grit, every sense of the word grit. He's all about it. He's a bulldog, man. He's just small, but that doesn't mean that he can't be effective. And I think that if the Lions were staring at an opportunity in the 4th or 5th round to get Blake Corum, you have to. Like, that would be a no-brainer. But I have to see the guy, I have to see some more tape on his blocking to see if he's willing to block. Can he block some of the bigger guys? That's the only turnoff that I would have with Blake is he able to lay it down when he needs to? Matthew, you like Drake May the best? See, I like Daniels, man. I think that Daniels just real smooth release. Really, really smooth. Yeah, there's a lot of O-line in the second round. Got to get them early, though, if you want the good ones. So Zinter, yeah, let me pull him up again. I can't remember which one it was now. If it was Zinter or was Zinter the one that had the busted leg, right? You got to remember, I've looked at like hundreds of guys by now. They all start to blend. They all start to blend. Where is Zinter on here? Must be listed as a guard. All right, Zach Zinter. Here we go. 6'5", 309, 33 and a half inch arms. So he's got good arms. 9-inch hands. 81 inch wingspan. So here's the cool thing about wingspan. If you are 2 inches over your height, you are below average. So if you're 6'5", that means that you have an automatic wingspan of 77 inches, but it should be 79 inches. So 79 inches would make you below average. If you're between 3 and 4 inches of above your height, you're at average, and that's where Zach Zinter is. He's in the average category, which is not bad. But his arm length at 33 and a half inches and 9 and a third inch size hand is pretty good. But I guess to answer my question, yeah, was he the one that had the broken leg? Yeah, he was. So he should be good by now. I can't remember when the OSU game was, but he should be good by now. That's only like maybe a 6-month recovery, I think. Jack 2125, will I do a mock draft with trading down scenarios to show later round quality? I will. So now that we're done with mock draft 2.0, now we progress it to all the trades. So next week, Monday, and every Monday from here on out is when we do it. And for the giveaway tonight, looks like we still have 83 people in. I should have done the giveaway a little bit earlier. Let me jump into this thing real quick. 1 second. All right. Who just said Corum blows? Did I just see that in here? Corum blows. Look, I'm not a Michigan guy, and if I like him, that takes a lot because I'm able to separate Saturdays and Sundays. I know it doesn't always sound like that, but I can do it. It's all good. All right, so let me randomize this, and I'm just going to pick a number. We got 80 some odd people in here. $86 people. 86 people, 83 people. Nobody sees anything more than 86 right now. I don't want to leave anybody out because it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go to the beginning of the chat and count anyway. All right, I'm going to randomize it. We'll see what the number is, and then I'll pick that number of chat messages. We've got over 500 chat messages, so why don't we do this? If we've got 84 people in and over 560 chat messages, we'll double it. We'll do 172, and we're going to randomize it. So there we go. $59. So I'm going to go pick the 59th message or chat, not message. 2, 3. So we've got Steve Likens, 10:01 p.m. was the 59th chat. Steve Likens. Steve, are you still in here? Man, allergies. We got Steve Likens in the house. I don't see a recent chat from him. We might have lost him. Got to be in here to win. Yeah, I don't see a message from him for a while. So now I've got to go the other way. I got to go from 10:43 p.m. backwards. All right, so now we've got Matthew Agerstrand. I think he's still in here, right? Matthew Agerstrand. The winner tonight is Caleb Williams. So Matthew Agerstrand, if you're still in here, just send us a chat real quick. I always have trouble with giveaways. It's like I try to give stuff away. I can never give anything away. It's crazy. Like I just got a hold of 9 drinks, and that was from like a month ago. So Matthew Agerstrand, you were just in here. I'm telling you, I think Caleb Williams could fall. If Chicago has half a brain, they would do it. Oh, Matthew was just in here, like literally just in here. At 10:35, not even 10 minutes ago. What's the fish thing? What are we talking about here? Detroit fan man? What's the fish thing? What did I miss? I think that Chicago is going to take a quarterback. I just don't know if it's Caleb. What is this? I hate talking bad to people. Poor Dan wrote. Quickly on vacation. I don't know what you're talking about there either. Would I trade Goff to the Raiders for Max in their first? Oh boy. No, I think Goff is worth way more than that. I mean, I like Max, but no, I think that they would rather have their own first round picks to choose from, to be honest with you. All right, so we lost Matthew Agerstrand too. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that's not cool. I wouldn't. I mean, look, the dude's done enough. There's some things that I know about certain people too, so they might want to be careful with what they say. Gotcha. All right, so I'm gonna have to do this one more time, but now I'm gonna randomize it to a lot lesser number. I think the next time I do this, I'm gonna do it in the beginning or halfway through, and I'm already gonna have a number randomized, and I'm just gonna pick the number somehow quickly. Place your bets. Place your bets. That's right. All right. So from 1048, we're going to walk back 39 steps, starting with the real Brad Holmes. So now I got Chris Time at 1043. I think that's accurate. Chris Time at 1043 would have been the 39th. Chris Time, are you still in here? That was 6 minutes ago. Is everybody bouncing out? It's got 84 people in here. I don't think anyone's changed. So, Chris, you won. Here's my email. Email me your details. I don't obviously share, sell, or do anything with your details. But email me your name, your address, and we'll get out your gift bag. I might need some information from you so that I can make sure you get the right size. But email me your info and I'll get your gift bag out. The only thing that I ever ask is just let people know you got it. Just tell them that you won from watching Rocked On Podcast Network, Rocked On Detroit Lions podcast. Appreciate you guys all. Damn, man, almost a 3-hour show tonight. Insane. On a Monday, 10:50 p.m. Yeah, there you go. I love it. You have to stand up and give your acceptance speech. And winner, chicken dinner, man. Chris Time. Appreciate you guys. You guys have all been great. Hope you enjoyed Mock Draft 2.0. Next week, Monday, we'll be doing some trades, but tomorrow we'll be live on Rise and Grind Morning Show. Starts at 8:30 a.m. It is only on at Rocked On Syndicate. So if you plan on watching, you have to watch from at Rocked On Syndicate only. That's where the Rise and Grind Morning Show will be. It will not be on Rocked On Detroit Lions. Our goal is to promote that channel and actually grow it now that we're getting into April. I'm sorry. Actually, April 1st. Tomorrow is only the 26th. So it'll be on Rocked On Detroit Lions tomorrow. April 1st, it won't be. Or after April 1st. But anyway, join us tomorrow. Still subscribe to Ab Rocked On Syndicate, please. That way you can watch the morning show. But we'll be on 8:30 tomorrow, going live, talking about everything we didn't talk about today and probably more. So we'll see you guys in the morning, 8:30, right here. And at Rocked On Syndicate, appreciate you guys for being the best sponsors. See how April Fool's a little early, right? Being the best sponsors and supporters of this channel. You guys have truly made this a possible dream for me. And we'll continue to show up as long as you do. So we'll talk to you guys tomorrow morning. Have a great night. And Chris Time, don't forget to email me. The show phone number, if you need it, is in the description, along with email and other ways to contact. We'll talk to you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.